Well, good day, my friends. I'm starting today here in Mount Airy, North Carolina, the home of Andy Griffith. You can see in front of me the Snappy Lunch, Floyd's Barbershop. But Mount Airy had some celebrities far before Andy Griffith, and we're going to talk about them today. Chang Eng Bunker, the Siamese Conjoined twins. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. So we have quite a few places here in Mount Airy we're going to check out today relating to the bunkers. Let's head out to the first one. There it is. This is the White Plains Baptist Church here, and it shows you how important they were that they actually have a plaque over here to them. Here it says Eng and Chang Bunker, 1811 to 1874, conjoined twins born in Siam, toured widely in the U.S. before settling nearby to farm, 1839. Now this is really special because they, when they settled here, they married sisters, and Chang had 10 kids and Eng had 11, so now they have like 1,500 descendants, and every year in May or June, right here at this church, they have a family reunion that anybody that can come that's related does. And I thought that was so cool. So let's walk over and see their graves. As you saw, they were born in Siam and what is now Thailand, and their parents were farmers. So they grew up duck farmers, and their father apparently died due to a smallpox epidemic. So their mother raised them, and she would take them to the market to sell eggs with her, and she would raise them basically like there was nothing different between them, but they were actually conjoined by a piece of flesh and cartilage, or a mixture of the two, right at their chest, at their sternum. And so it was 5 inches long and about 9 inches around. So here they lie, right there. Nice, big, beautiful headstone. You can see it says bunker right there. I've been out here before, but I have never shared it with you guys. I've come on my own time where the sun wasn't so good, so I wanted to share it when the light was a little bit better. It says on the left, Eng Bunker, May 11th, 1811 to January 17th, 1974. His wife Sarah A. Yates, born December 18th, 1822, so she would have been 11 years younger than him. She passed away April 29th, 1892. And it says Siamese twins, Chang and Eng, born in Siam at the very bottom. And then here's Chang Bunker, May 11th also, of course, 1811, died January 17th also, 1874. His wife, Adelaide Yates, like I said, they were sisters. October 11th, 1823 to May 21st, 1917. So she survived quite a bit longer. So their story was that they were discovered by a man who was a trusted trader with Siam. His name was Robert Hunter. He was actually out on his boat one morning and thought he saw a sea creature, and it turned out to be Eng and Chang out swimming. That was one of the things they loved to do, and he saw an opportunity that he could, of course, bring them to the Western world and tour them around in different circuses and make a living off them. So he talked to them and their mother, and also got the approval of the King of Siam, who had seen them and met them, and you know, they were a curiosity to the area, so they understood. So they were given permission to come to the US. So they came to Boston, and they were put in the hands of a man who was supposed to basically take care of them, who his name was Abel Coffin. And that's what they would do. They would tour around making money, basically, you know, doing somersaults, and people just were fascinated by watching them. There was an instance where like a doctor thought they were fake and wanted to examine them. They wouldn't let them, so like a big melee broke out. But other than that, there's never really anything, no, you know, for them being, you know, basically what would be Thai, being different for those days, especially in the, you know, we're talking they came here when they were 17. So in the early, you know, 1820s, mid 1820s, they were coming here, and they were young, and they were kind of, they were boys. So after a couple of years of touring around with Abel Coffin and his wife, they had a disagreement and they ran away from her. And Abel eventually found them in New York State. Apparently, he said that he gave them the tongue lashing of a lifetime when he found them. He said they were whoring, gambling, and drinking, and he brought them back, and they eventually separated from him. They ended up just controlling their own career for the next couple of years, and then had made enough money. They had really done well for themselves. They made enough money to where they could actually retire from the business, and they came out here to just outside Mount Airy, and they bought, get this, 150 acres of land for $300. Holy cow. So that immediately, having that much land, made them wealthy, and you know, they were respected because of their fame. So they were able to become naturalized citizens, and so they were able to buy land, and apparently they were treated as though they were basically a white man, because when they got the farm was so big that that they apparently had 28 slaves. So eventually they got married, they met the sisters, and they got married, and we'll go out one of the houses at least. I know for sure one of them is still around. We'll talk about what their married lives were like. But they got married, and then got an offer from P.T. Barnum to go out and do a tour in Europe. So they went and did that, and apparently they never went back to Siam. They never went back and visited their mother. She thought they died, and some missionaries went and found her at one point about 15 years after the boys had been gone, and told her that no, they're actually wealthy and they're married and they're doing well. So she did find out that that they survived and they were doing well, but she never got to see them again, unfortunately. But by the time they came back from that tour, the Civil War was breaking out, and apparently Eng was drafted to the I believe it was the Union side, and of course he resisted because of his health and everything. He was, by this point, they were both 50 years old, and they were conjoined. So he was, of course, you know, not forced to go. But both of the brothers, like I said, they had a lot of kids. Eng had 11 kids with Sarah, and Chang had 10 with Adelaide. So they both had sons that did fight in the Civil War on the Confederate side and did survive. But apparently, even though Eng and Chang didn't really formally take a side, the Confederate side was using their image as like a two halves make a whole, saying like that, you know, just, you know, family can't be separated by things like this or whatever. But they actually had loaned money to the Confederate side and to some of the Confederate businesses. So when they were repaid in Confederate money, and after the war it was basically worth nothing. And then of course the Emancipation Proclamation came and freed all the slaves, so they ended up having to go back out, and they would take some of their family with them, their kids, but they would have to tour again, and they would go out and tour through Europe at the end. But unfortunately, I believe it was Chang developed a pretty heavy drinking problem, and eventually ended up getting paralysis, like from a stroke from his drinking. And so they ended up just coming back to their home in Mount Airy, where they eventually died. Apparently they were sleeping, and one of Eng's sons came in to check on them and found that Chang wasn't responding, and woke his father up, Eng, and told him that Chang wasn't responding, and they realized he was dead, and Eng said, well, then I must go join him as well, and he died just a couple hours later. So crazy story. They didn't have the horrible, sad life where they were completely taken advantage of. They really had, sounds like, pretty free reign to do whatever they wanted with their career. And in the end, they wanted to be farmers just like they grew up being. That's where they made their days out here. But it's kind of cool because, like I said, the over here you can see there's more bunkers, probably their children. And it's funny also that the Bunker family, when they became naturalized citizens, that's when they adopted the last name Bunker. It was from someone that the guys knew in New York that they liked. They liked him and decided to adopt his name. But he ended up, the family has had, the last I heard, 11 sets of twins, but none were conjoined. And the first set that they ended up having were like the grandsons of, I believe, Chang. And they ended up naming those kids Chang and Eng. So the museum here in town, dedicated to Andy Griffith, also has a separate building on the grounds. Last time I was here, they had some of the Bunkers memorabilia, so I want to go check that out, and I want to go out to the farm, which I believe was, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that it was Chang's farm. When they were first brought to Boston, surprisingly, people wanted to separate them. They thought, you know, that they would live a better life, but the brothers didn't want to take that risk. They didn't think it was safe, and they liked being together. And it was actually found out after they died that it wasn't just the cartilage and flesh that conjoined them at the sternum. They are actually sharing a liver. So if they would have tried to separate them with the times and not having x-rays and things like that, they would have died. So it was good that they did not. But we will go out and see the house, at least one of the houses, because they did try and all live under one roof initially, but apparently the wives did not like that, and eventually wanted, or what they ended up coming to a compromise was that they would each get their own house and their children would live at that house. This church was indeed organized in 1856. They very well could have attended this church during their life. Makes sense why they're buried behind it. The farm wasn't very far at all from, just a couple of minutes from where they're buried. Called Hollyview Farm. There's a lake over there, and here's the house over here, right there. So that's Chang's house. And they originally, like I said, they lived together, but they realized they couldn't, so they each had a separate house for each wife and their children, and they would spend 3 days with each. Their wives are actually Quakers, and they were white, so when they were first getting married, you can imagine what they must have dealt with. I do know they had some bricks thrown through their windows and things like that, but 1,500 descendants later, you know, it was worth it. Now let's go to the museum and see some of their personal artifacts. There you can see Andy and Opie up on the water tower together. John, tell them I meant Andy and Opie Taylor, not Bunker. I don't want them to get their vlogs confused. We jumped over to Mayberry there for a second. Couldn't come here and not say hi to you two. How you doing, guys? Great to see you again. We've made it over to the museum, and yes, you can tell by the mural that primarily Andy Griffith gets most of the love here, but not completely. When you're talking about conjoined twins that haven't been alive for 200 years, I guess we should be glad that, you know, they're able to get anything at all. Oh no, I came to the room that they used to have it in, and everything's gone. They used to have one of their traveling chests and quite a few other things. I'm gonna ask. All right, I did get an answer on the bunkers. Unfortunately, but fortunately, they don't have the display out anymore because it's actually gonna move to a permanent home in a building across the street that is more dedicated to the bunker. So it'll actually be a much bigger exhibit. They said they hope to have it open in the next month or two, so we just missed it this time, but I can't wait to come back and see what they have in the future. Sorry I couldn't show it to you this time, but yeah, bummer. I should have recorded it last time I was here, but I'm sure in the future it'll be way worth it. So yeah, directly across from the statue, you can even see it's already named. It says the Art Center, Siamese Twins Museum, Blackman Theater. So that's not only awesome, but it also negates my comment earlier on of like 200 years, you know, ago they lived. We should be glad they're even remembered. Well, with all the kin that are around these parts, hopefully that's what helped it stay relevant. I didn't ask if it was going to be here, but I know there does exist a casting of them, of their body after they passed, that was in some museum in North Carolina. I hope it ends up here. I was kind of wondering when I looked at this building if, much like the Andy Griffith one, if they would do a statue to Chang Eng, but they do have this right out front. It says, "This large granite millstone from the farm of Eng and Chang Bunker was used to grind corn into meal." So it's on loan from the family. Well, my friends, we're gonna call it a day. I hope you enjoyed this. If I can't end it with a cast or a bust of Chang and Eng, I'll take Opie and Andy. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great night. Goodbye.